Coming at you from the bulletproof bunker just outside Celestia's castle, it's Equestria Redacted with Ephrom, Josine. After the last episode was kind of big, and I noticed this show had really become really serious, it's been pedophiles here, lawsuits and cease and desist here, all this stuff here. I figured we're just going to have kind of a light, easy episode this week, where we really don't even really cover anything big, just some idiotic reactions. Let's start with the new episode, The Parent Map, in which it starts with Sunburst's cutie mark glowing because he needs to solve a friendship problem. Again, can just anyone's cutie mark just randomly start glowing because they need to solve a friendship problem? Like, that could be an entire spin-off series right there. Random pony needs to solve a friendship problem. But anyway, he has to go with Starlight in order to solve a problem in both of their hometowns. You see, it starts off going into this kind of interesting story about how essentially Starburst's parents are trying to modernize it to a fault, while meanwhile Starlight's dad is trying to keep it traditional again to a fault. However, it doesn't really go anywhere with that. Instead, we just see Sunburst have mommy issues and Starlight have daddy issues for about 20 minutes. What makes it even worse is that both of their parents are made to be just completely annoying. Just aggravating to watch. And I get the reason for that in-universe, because they're annoyed by them. And you know what? That's fair. But the problem is, I'm also annoyed by them. Like, I don't want to be annoyed by characters. I don't think that's a very contrarian opinion. And when you make characters that are annoying, they should annoy, the characters in the show more than they annoy the audience. These characters just annoy me. I remember I called both Granny's Gone Wild, still an awful name by the way, and Surf and/or Turf hard episodes to watch because of how much they were annoying me by the end. This is the worst of Season 8 so far. Now, I hope it stays the worst of Season 8. However, we're only about a third of the way through the season, so who knows? Next week's episode is Non-Compete Clause, which I assume will involve Santa Claus, specifically Santa Claus's claws, because most people don't know this, but Santa Claus is actually a crab. I'm right, okay? You just don't know it. Anyway, Brittany has offered a little challenge to Lily Pete supporters. Yes, Thought Bubbles Brittany posted on her blog a post called A Challenge to Lily Pete supporters, so I figured I'd read it. Come have a civil discussion with me and convince me that I'm wrong. If Lily is infallible, as you claim, I've never claimed that, and the evidence is fake, again, I've never claimed that. I've claimed you've misused the evidence, or taken things out of context, or it's much more complicated than you're sitting at a computer screen writing, how am I going to destroy Lily Pete today, then going to Photoshop. I don't think you've done that. I think you're more deceptive than that, Brittany. Then it shouldn't be hard to use actual evidence against me. I have. Watch my show. That's all I've done. So far, all I've seen is people spouting verifiably false information and then doubling down and blocking when evidence is presented to the contrary. I've never blocked you. You don't have a Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time. Brittany, you can come to my Twitter. You can get a Twitter if you want. Or, heck, I have a Tumblr. You can go there. It's ephromjosine.tumblr.com. I don't use it very often, but you know what? I'll make this exception just for you. So come on, I'm not gonna attack anyone. I've already had a few discussions with former and current Lily fans, and it's gone over fairly well. Come prove me wrong, smiley face. Unless the real reason none of you want to read is because you're afraid you're wrong and would rather enable and shield a textbook narcissist than take a shot at your ego. Here's the thing, Brittany. I'm not denying your challenge because I think, oh, I'm gonna be destroyed. I'm denying your challenge because your initial claim is wrong. I don't think Lily Pete is infallible. I don't think all your evidence is necessarily fake. There are things against Lily Pete I'd agree with you with. I imagine if I were to have the discussion with you, then you'd be changing the topic constantly or strawmanning me and defeating that fake version of me you created instead of defeating the version of me that actually exists. So here's my challenge to Brittany. You have to come up with a concrete subject I disagree with related to Lily Pete that we can discuss. I'm not going to sit there and discuss Lily Pete in general because that could mean a million different things. Some of which I may not be entirely informed on. You need to give me a concrete topic and then I'll talk to you about it. Okay? Okay. Anyway, I was on Twitter recently and I checked Vita's account because I check Vita's account pretty often because he has all the best drama. And I found this screen cap from Saturnstar, a good friend of the series. Someone asked her, "I'm so confused why Vita and Jace of all people accept her." I checked through some of Saturn's posts. I'm pretty sure she means Buttons because there's been this thing going on with Lily and Buttons recently. However, it really doesn't matter that much, so I guess it could apply to anyone. It'd still be equally atrocious at points. Last time I remember, they made it clear she's a liar, and they even got in talk with one of her exes. So just because Vita talks bad about someone once means that he can never agree with them? I mean, he didn't on your high horse on Minty Root, who he's currently friends with. In fact, he even used that as an example in one of his FNGR videos, so, you don't know what? Yeah, he says, yeah, not you. Yeah, her ex, who claimed that he almost committed suicide because of her manipulations. Not just one manipulation, it was multiple manipulations. What happened to that? Again, implying you can't agree with someone or think they're right because of... You're putting in other factors. This is a non sequitur, essentially. I'm still hoping they are just trolling her to get her to confess juicy shit, but it doesn't even look like that is happening at all. That sentence was structured horribly. Not forgetting that Vita, and this is Saturn talking now, not forgetting that Vita has made her a Kiwi Farm thread. And yeah, I don't get it either. You're going back to the person that you almost committed suicide over, so either she's over-exaggerating that part in Skype chats, or she really is that petty that she uses any kind of source to get back at FNGR. Which is also, which is also pretty stupid because last I've seen, FNGR doesn't give a lot of care to Vita or vice versa. They've made multiple videos on each other. You're just wrong. So once again, a plan that's spoiled for Buttons. I'll leave Vita's commentary below in case you're curious. However, he called it one of the most dishonest posts he's seen all year. Now it's time for a game. This game is Good GoFundMe versus Bad GoFundMe. A good GoFundMe, for instance, is something like one Webcake set up recently for her friend Angel, who was in an abusive household and needed help. As of right now, it's surpassed the goal, so there's no need to donate to it, but the people who did always get, a good view of my book. In your case, you'll find many good recommended videos on the side, such as, for instance, but not limited to, I Want to Be the Guy, Impossible Glitches, Any Percentage, Ben Shapiro versus left-leaning student on historical. Nothing else there, just historical. It cuts off. And Vampire Sunset Shimmer audio. Oh, that's one of Webcake's videos. A good GoFundMe will also have a lot of intelligent discussion behind it. For instance, Charles Franks said in the comments, You may have everybody else here fooled, but not me. Typical user garbage is always so easy to read, like an open book. You guys are really so predictable in nature. To get as many people as you can to boost your standing and popularity. Make big preaches of what you think everybody wants to hear, and then suddenly you got them eating out of the palm of your hand. An underhanded move, but it's effective, I'll admit. I'll give you credit where it's due, even to you, Wupcake. It's a pretty good act, and if I weren't so disappointed in you as a human being, I would actually be a little impressed if it were genuine. But I doubt that'll ever happen. Yes, I'm happy that girl made it, but I doubt you did anything to help her out of the kindness of your heart. You started a GoFundMe to help someone out of abuse for the wrong reasons. I'm outraged. I'm not saying you never did anything, quite the opposite. I'm merely suggesting you had some motivation for your actions. There's no way an ugly American like yourself did that for nothing. Oh my God, Charles Franks. What? Now let's compare this to a bad GoFundMe. That being the one Manga Common started recently. Car wreck funds. I recently got into a car accident, admitting it's his fault. While no one got hurt physically, my car got messed up something fierce. Can't even use proper grammar. And I worry that my insurance won't be able to cover everything. There was a collision, and like I said, no one got hurt physically. He has to remind people that, by the way. I need about $4,000 to help cover the cost. He says about, by the way, when that's a hard donation, so again, doesn't know what words mean. As well as act as a buffer for what I'm going to pay out of pocket. However, worst case scenario, which is looking more and more likely, is the car will be totaled due to its age. And if that happens, well, I need that buffer to help me pay for a replacement car, so admitting this is pointless. I need as much money as I can get as soon as possible. I needed this car to get to my job. And while I'm borrowing another car for the time, I need to be able to get my own wheels ASAP. So it's his fault and he couldn't even write a coherent one. Okay. Manga has also not really said anything about it since on Twitter, meaning we have no clue what he's even planning to do with anything. How are the updates going? You know, etc., etc. Well, I'm not saying someone like Manga doesn't need the money. If he does, he has a bad way of showing it. And not only that, but it's money that he should be getting himself, not through another means. This is what people think of when they say e-begging. It's, you need money for something that's your fault? Well, don't worry. So, Wubcake, you're a doobie this week. And Manga Common, you're a grouchy don't be. How do you feel? I guess the last thing I have to cover is Commando Solo, aka Jack Nolan, who apparently has worked in Hollywood if the rumors are to be believed. He did a talk at Google a while ago. It was for his book, Firewall, The Propagandist Guide to Self-Defense. Because if you do not know, he worked as a propagandist in the United States military. At least he claims that there's some people who think he's lying. We'll believe him, though. We'll believe him. In his talk, by the way, he claims that he can't teach you how to think like a propagandist, since he worked as one in the military. Real trustworthy right there, Jack. But then goes on to say that buying his book will teach you how to think like a propagandist. That doesn't make any sense. Is this how you became one of KP's bodyguards, by just using constant... And it's funny, because he later makes mention to Orwell. What do you think doublethink was? I skim the 1984 Wikipedia page, for God's sake. And for that matter, you can teach people how to think like that, which you said you didn't, then you said you book wouldn't. It was really confusing, okay? But anyway, you can by teaching other tools. I'd like to introduce you, Jack, to this man, Tom Hartman, who wrote this book, Cracking the Code. Unfortunately for you, I was reading Cracking the Code, and still am, when I first saw this video a couple days ago. So, your book doesn't really appear to be anything more than a guy at cracking the code. Now, I could be wrong. However, your talk didn't do anything to convince me otherwise. Will your book be more about how to specifically recognize propaganda? Well, then wouldn't knowing the tools and how to use them yourself be a better way instead of just talking about... You see my point? And if you're doing that, then again, just by cracking the code, it's a better book. Now, to be fair, Firewall is cheaper than Cracking the Code, at least a copy of Cracking Code I got. However, at the same time, Cracking the Code can be purchased in the physical format, while Firewall is only available as an ebook. Nothing against those who like to read on Kindles or something along those lines, but I personally always prefer my books to be in paperback form. Although I don't mind hardbacks. I just think paperbacks are easier to store. Yeah, I'm somewhat of a reader myself, so what? I do a political commentary show 4 days a week. You really think I wouldn't have at least a few of these books lying around? Also, Cracking the Code has a foreword by Jim Hightower, the author of Swim Against the Current. Even a dead fish can go with the flow. Does your book have that? Exactly. I'll link both Cracking the Code and Firewall in the description, by the way, just in case you're interested in purchasing one of them. Unless you're like the majority of bronies and don't really care about this. Heck, you can get Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky for about $16 on Amazon. And that's essentially the origin of books like this that talk about propaganda and propagandists. Actually, if you want to get really technical, the earliest one I could think of specifically about the United States could be considered War is a Racket by Smedley Butler, but that's getting really technical, so I don't feel comfortable counting that one. But both of those were essentially the origins of books like this, or like Firewall. What does your book do to separate? Look, Jack, I don't hate you because you're friendly with KP or something. As a political commentator, I don't care about that. I don't take you seriously in your pursuit to do whatever your goal was to achieve with your book. Let me just read you the description. I'll show you what I mean. The freedom we cherish is illusionary if our minds are shackled. That's just a generic statement. Advertisers and political machines bombard us with propaganda every day. Congratulations, intellectual, you figured that out. Follow a tyrant, a trained military propagandist behind the scenes. This psycha, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, officer turned Hollywood actor will show you how Washington and Madison Avenue craft propaganda ordnance, how these weapons are launched and targeted, and the impact they have on upon our daily lives and our nation's policies. I guess if you want okay, that's all just generic statements. Meet the dark Grand Master of propaganda. I could imagine him going to a bar and using that as a pickup line. Hey, baby, I'm the dark Grand Master of propaganda. And share the intimate musings of one of the most nefarious manipulators of history. Arm and equip yourself against even the most insidious attacks upon your free will. Just as you protect your computer with a firewall program, you will learn how to mount a military-grade defense of your mind, your opinions, and your judgment. You will see art, cinema, television, and our culture in a frightening new light, for you will see the eyes of a propagandist. Again, wait a minute. Let me check something real quick. Okay, to be fair, I'm unable to find any proof he even knows who Tom Hartman is. I'm not accusing him of plagiarism. I want to make that clear. So this may sound like a giant non sequitur. However, he does specifically mention Noam Chomsky in the Google talk that I linked. So it's almost certain, or by almost I mean certain, he knows who he is. And as mentioned earlier, manufacturing consent by Chomsky is considered as one of the origin point of this. Keep in mind, I have not personally myself read that one. However, most people still have a basic concept of it. The idea that mainly corporate media is just as dangerous as state media, for instance. That's one of the main theses of the book. And that you're being manipulated by media, which, may I say, it took true intellectuals to figure out. I'm sorry, I'm just sick of people acting like that's some giant revelation. Oh god, I'm going on a rant again. This is Ephrom Josine show all over again. Which you should watch, by the way. Some of you may be wondering why I spent the majority of the time talking about an I Love Kim Possible a lot bodyguard, rambling about his political book. The answer is, 1, because I haven't seen anyone else even really be aware of it. And 2, because I'm Ephrom Josine, and the whole goal of Equestria Redacted is to provide news you may not have known. I bet you didn't know this, for instance. And 3, because this is my show, I do what I want. In fact, I'm going to sit here and read specifically the foreword that was written by Jim Hightower, author of Swim Against the Current, Even a Dead Fish Can Go With the Flow, of Cracking the Code. And you're going to watch me. I'm not going to read it out loud or anything either. I'm just going to... There. Let's hope no one noticed I didn't actually read that. Did I say that out loud? Anyway, most of the viewers have left now, so I'm Ephrom, and good night. That didn't even mean to be a topic I've been off on.